What if our stories weren't just about the past, where we've come from and where we are now? But what if our stories contained the clues and insights that would help us understand who we're becoming and where we might go next? This is Lead with Story, a podcast from Forerunner Story Co., where we explore how our stories not only provide insights to who we are and where we are, but where we're going and who we might become. I'm your host, Mike Tiesinga, and this is Lead with Story. Welcome again to another episode of Lead with Story. Today's episode is made possible with the presence of friend and fellow creative and Leadership Greater Kalamazoo alum, class of 2024. Give a little shout out to that class. Sara, welcome. Thanks for coming on and sharing some of your story. I'm excited for our conversation today. But before we get into it anymore, would you just go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and whatever else you would like to start with?
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah.
My name is Sara Schelb. I own Serotonic Marketing here in Kalamazoo, and I'm a creative marketer. I think creative is at the core of everything I do, and just really leveraging strategy to amplify that creative.
Tell me a little bit about just your journey. So you're a business owner, you own your own business. Share some of just your path to getting to where you are now. How long has Serotonic been in existence, and what was that journey to forming that?
Yeah, so I started Serotonic about a year ago, last February 2024. 2024. And I had come from kind of the agency world, worked for corporate companies, Fortune 500 companies, did a lot of freelancing right out of college, and had a very non-traditional college education path. So I spent a lot of time in college, maybe more than I'd like to admit, but I think that really formed my desire to be a business owner.
How so? Like, what was about that path that really stoked the desire to own your own business?
Yeah, I think, like, looking back, I started as a nursing major.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to start college my senior year of high school because I had moved from Portage to Cincinnati, Ohio, or like the suburbs of Cincinnati, in 11th grade. And just the way credits transferred, they're like, well, all you need is a quarter credit of fitness class to pass high school. So I was like, great, I'll come in and work out in the mornings. And then they had a program where they paid for college tuition while I was still technically attending high school. So I started there, and I chose nursing because at the time, I was always creative growing up, but it was never a conversation about how I could make a career out of being a creative. And traditionally speaking, like, it wasn't a career that you could make money in. So just trying to think logistically, and the human body has always fascinated me. So I was like, oh, I'll give nursing a crack. So I started there.
And a chance to, I could see some connections, right? There's a piece of, in the marketing and creative world, you're still dealing with caring for people and handling them in a certain way. And so I could see how there could be some connection there as well. Yeah. But how long did you go down the nursing path, and when did you make a switch from there?
Yeah, I did nursing in Ohio for, I think, about a year.
Okay.
And then my parents were moving to Switzerland, and I was like, well, I want to go be with friends for college. I wanted to be around my community. And my best friend that I grew up with, we have always talked about being roommates in college. So my parents moved to the east side of Michigan, which is like where my dad's job was based out of. And then him and my mom moved to Switzerland for a couple of years. And then I attended Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and I pursued nursing there for, I think it was another year.
Okay.
Maybe year and a half, just to get like all those undergrad credits out of the way, and trying to do the more affordable route. But there was just something that I didn't feel connected to the community of other the other people that were pursuing the same degree. It just didn't feel like my people. I felt like I was being put inside this box. And then I started thinking about what that career would look like. And it's not that the subject matter disinterested me, but it was more so just being stuck in that same routine over and over again. And I was like, nope, I'm an artist. I want to be creative. So I ended up taking, my parents were like, okay, well, make sure that's really what you want to do. And don't spend a ton of money on a big degree until, you know what you're going to do. So I started here at Center for New Media in Kalamazoo. And honestly, their program was phenomenal. I learned all the technical skills I needed to learn as a graphic designer. I went through their graphic design program and web design and development program. So I was able to get the technical chops for design and a little bit of coding. And I obtained my associate's degree there. And then I decided, yep, this is what I want to do. I didn't know what that looked like, but I had this skill set and I felt like I could use it and put it to use. So I went to U of M. They had a program at their Stamps School of Fine Arts that was very moldable to whatever I wanted to do. So I really liked that aspect of it. And I was only there for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And I did a lot of fine arts classes, I selected a lot of drawing classes because I love to draw, and it was just very, I don't know, kind of cathartic to work in that space again and develop those skills, the skills that I spent childhood, with a pencil and paper in my hand everywhere I went. So it was cool to go back to that, like kind of the roots of how I fell in love with art and design. And then I ended up finding myself working. So at U of M, on their campus where the School of Art and Design is, there's also the architecture school and then the engineering school. And in the hub of that is the Duderstadt Center. And it's like this art and technology hub. So I ended up working there for, I think it was about a year, and started playing around with technology they had available for creating augmented realities. And so I've suffered migraines my entire life, and in conversations that I've had with other people who suffer from migraines, there's this lack of empathetic or even sympathetic reactions or conversation with that happens like in grade school. Like teachers don't always understand what students are going through whenever they have these like silent diseases. Even if it's not a migraine, like there's other things that people battle with on a day-to-day basis that don't really get discussed, or that you kind of have to silence yourself about and just like get through the day. And maybe that's part of my interest in the human body is, so I created this augmented reality while I was working there, to showcase how people may perceive a certain type of migraine aura. So I got to play around with the 360 camera that they had like just gotten, and augmented reality tech was fairly new at that point. So I was like one of the first people to learn how to use the software, and I was starting to teach other people how to use the software. And I found that I'm a learner. That's one of my top skills and the Clifton strengths, but I love like learning and coming up with these conceptual ways to tell that story, and bring that human connection to helping people understand and sympathize maybe what others are going through. So I really loved that. And then I didn't feel like that education path was necessarily serving me. Like I didn't feel like I had a sense of direction. I was like, where am I going to take this? What am I going to do? It just felt like it wasn't serving me. And then around the same time, my husband and then boyfriend at the time, we accidentally got pregnant. So we had a surprise baby, and we're like, okay, it's really expensive to live in Ann Arbor and on the east side of the state. All of our family is over here. So, and we were doing long distance relationship. And so we were kind of over it, and it just felt like the perfect time to move back home, look at programs at Western. Western is a great school, and I began thinking at that point about, okay, what do I want to do with all of these skills that I've learned? And I found myself talking to the director at Western's School of Business in the ad program. And I felt like it was just this really great mix of, okay, I get to learn marketing, and I also get to learn advertising. And then there's also this creative element to it. Like, maybe I want to design for ad agencies. So that's how I landed there. And my time there was interesting. I did finish my degree there. I did get a degree in advertising and promotion.
In a roundabout way. There you go.
I did.
Yeah.
And so my time there, I think what really was that platform for me to launch into this headspace of entrepreneurship was I was developing relationships with my professors, and I started stepping outside of my comfort zone a little bit more and going to the networking events that Western put on at the School of Business for the students, which is super outside of my comfort zone. Like, I never thought I would be someone that was so forward facing with people, or like I've always been more introverted, and it really helped me gain more confidence in talking to people and going into rooms with people. I think I was able to avoid taking any public speaking classes in college, and I avoided it like the plague.
But eventually you found yourself public speaking in some way or another.
Yeah. And I ended up getting a job with Kellogg while I was a student at Western, because I went to a couple of those events and I was very persistent with them. I felt like that would be such a great entry for my career. And it's Kellogg. Like, everyone knows Kellogg. Everyone grew up on all of the Kellogg cereals.
Pop-Tarts, Frosted Flakes, you name it. Yeah. Especially in Michigan. Everyone knows it.
Exactly. It's the hometown here, too, for it. So that was super exciting. I worked with such a great team there. They gave me so many opportunities to take the skills that I have and run with them. And I think I became more brave during that time, too, of just like asking for things that I wanted, rather than just doing what I was told, because I knew I didn't want to get stuck in a particular position. And I get bored easy too. So I was like, well, I might as well ask for it. The worst they can say is no.
Yeah. And you said that was a process of you kind of learning to be brave, and even hearing, your decision to step away from nursing school it sounds like there was a sense of that, I don't want to be stuck here.
Yeah.
What was, like, just that process, like, what kind of like helped you? What was like your inner drive or narrative or soundtrack that would just like help you choose to be brave? Obviously, like, the worst they can say is no. That is a big step. Like, well, they could say no, I'll survive that. But is there anything else that kind of helped you keep going?
I don't know that I can pinpoint like a specific thing. I have just always been a very strong-willed person. And like, even when I'm not good at things, like in high school, I really struggled with math, like painfully so. Spent hours with tutors after school, and I was just like frustrated and in tears always. And I didn't think college was going to be for me. And I, like, as soon as I got to college, and I was rocking it. Like, I've been a straight A student in college from day one, and high school was such a struggle. And I think it's just, maybe that was it. Maybe it was just like understanding that just because I'm not good at something doesn't mean I'm not good at something else. And then once I had the opportunity to lean into those strengths and pick a path that felt right for me, then I can excel there. Someone else can be good at math. I can hire an accountant,
Yeah,
I don't need
yep.
to be good at that.
Yeah, that feels so important. Just understanding, like, okay, what am I actually naturally gifted at? And you don't have to be good at everything, right? You said I can hire an accountant. I can hire someone else to do the parts that I'm not good at. And I think in some ways that makes us better.
Yeah.
To recognize, like, oh, this is a weakness of mine. I don't have to be all encompassing. I don't have to be everything in my own little world. And that probably serves you immensely in your work to lean on collaboration, right? To say, okay, here's what I'm great at. This is the lane I need to be in. But now there are different spaces where, okay, how can I surround myself with a team for us all to be exceptional?
Yeah.
And just having a great team of working together to move towards those common goals. So that seems like an incredible lesson to have recognized at that point in your journey.
Yeah.
What was, one, thank you for just sharing all of that. I have like so many different questions that I want to like, okay, which trail do we go down here? So you go through all that, you get your degree finally, you're working at Kellogg. Okay, what happens next? Right? Because there's still some gap between there and here.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was hired at Kellogg. It was like I was the very first hire during the pandemic by Kellogg. So I was their guinea pig for how this was going to go.
Yeah.
And so that was the starting point. And then I worked there until I graduated in 2021, that spring. And they offered me a full-time job right out of college. And it was really, it would have been a great first offer. And, I'm grateful I didn't take it. Just because I don't think I would have been happy and it wouldn't have been serving them or myself. But I just felt at that point, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I've got a 2-year-old at this point, a 2 or 3-year-old at this point, and my husband was still figuring out what he wanted to do, and we were living with my parents. So I was like, oh, this could be like a great opportunity to put our family on the right path. And I thought about it, and it was like exciting, but like there's just like something that you feel in your heart that's like, nope, that's not for you. And my husband and I, we talked about it, and he's always been very supportive, and me just going with my gut. He's like, your gut's usually right anyway. So I was like, I want to get in with an ad agency. I spent my last 2 years talking to professors in that space and exploring that field, and it's just so creative. And I was like, I think that's what I need to try. And one of the professors, he's been awesome. He's still kind of like my mentor-like figure today. We still keep in touch. But he got me into an ad agency to intern at. So I left Kellogg, went to do that internship, and it was awful, like so bad. I was on the production team. I don't think they really wanted me there. I was like begging for work to do, and I got nothing. Like, I would just sit around all day waiting to get something. It's like I got to put one McDonald's billboard together, I think. I was like, woohoo, whoop-de-doo. But then there was nothing creative going into it. I was just taking the direction that was given to me and moving the elements around. And I was like, nope, this isn't for me either. So it's kind of in panic mode. And like, well, I just left my job that could have been cushy and comfortable.
And I took this leap.
Yeah, I took this leap, and it didn't work out. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to start applying to ad agencies. And I interviewed quite a few. I got a couple offers, but there was something in me that said, nope, not this one. And I think a lot of those decisions came down to how the team was speaking about one another, or just the one-line phrases that would catch me. I'd go, that feels iffy. That doesn't feel right. Or like, I just don't think these are my people.
Some sort of flag would go up.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up getting connected. I'm not sure how I got connected. I got connected with a recruiter for, it's like a creative recruiting agency for like designers. And so I got connected with a recruiter there that connected me with contract opportunities. So I was doing a lot of freelancing and contracting, and I just kind of went with it. And I loved it because it was flexible. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just kind of what I do. And they would work with me to connect me to relevant opportunities. And so through that, I had the opportunity to work at different ad agencies without committing full time. And with that too, I was able to work with so many brands. Like I worked with the healthcare field, worked in like home products. I even got an opportunity to do some programming for a homedics program or product. And like that was actually on the shelves at Costco a couple of years ago. That was cool.
Yeah.
And just having these different unique creative opportunities that allowed me to kind of push the bounds of my capabilities, but also get the insight of those agencies and how agencies operated, and their different creative processes too. Like I've taken little nuggets from those different places and have implemented them into my own system. And so after that, or during that time of contracting, I found myself contracting for a social media agency. And it was a smaller agency. They didn't really have a creative team. They had like a full-time photographer and then contracted a whole bunch of other photographers, but nothing was organized or systemized. And I was like, I think you guys are lacking. I could help. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, will you hire me? I had been doing some contract work with them for a little while, and I basically asked for the job. I was like, will you hire me to form your creative team for you, your creative department, and make it more like robust and competitive? Like there was no creative edge, and I just saw this kind of golden egg opportunity.
It's like, I see a problem, I can help.
Yeah.
Let me help you, please.
Yes.
Pay me to help you, please.
Yeah. And it ended up working out really well. They hired me full time. I started as like a creative manager, where it was more of like organizing what the team would look like, the project management side of things. And I was doing design and video editing, and it was kind of just a mosh pit of all of these different skills that I was using to serve the company. And I mean, with that, I didn't know I was a project manager. I didn't know I was that organizer. I didn't know I could put X, Y, and Z together and make this system. And I was able to collaborate with other departments and work with them to develop a system that would work for the company, not just myself or for my team. So I found a love for collaboration, having always been kind of in my own little bubble, like escaping and just being the designer on the back end. And I found that was really filling my cup. And so I formed a team there. We scaled both in size of the team and in the company. We were getting more creative requests. I think what they excelled at whenever I was hired on was more of that account management, client service relations. And by the end of it, we had some celebrity brands come to us. And I think the quality of creative just speaks volumes. And also just being like, I think I had like that courage to speak up when I was hired too, and I said, hey, like, it was right around the time when reels were becoming a thing. It's like, why aren't we doing reels?
Yeah.
Like, we should be doing reels. So we got a jump start on that. And I'm grateful to have had a leader that let me just see an opportunity and hit the ground running with it. And that allowed us to stay kind of ahead of the curve or on top of things. Things didn't fall clients weren't questioning like, hey, why aren't we doing this? Because we were already doing it.
Yeah, you guys were leading the way.
Yeah. So that was a really great opportunity. I gave a lot to that job, and I think that's really the tipping point of why I left that job. Was I was working insane hours, and I did it to myself. I don't know that I was necessarily getting all the support I needed, and but like when I reflect back on it today, I wanted this opportunity to like serve my career path, and it certainly did. But there was an expense, and that expense was my family. And it's funny, like whenever you have kids, it just shifts. You know, we spend our whole life going to school with the goal of getting this big fancy job and working our way up. But we forget about all the other things and like why we're doing it along the way. And I hit a point where I was like, I'm done. Like, there's not enough changing here right now for me to stay. I felt like I wasn't being heard anymore, and it was just time.
Yeah.
Like, no hard feelings. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. I would not be here and have this confidence that I have now in my abilities to run a business. And also, like, I think I have that perspective now of like, if I do have employees, I want them to grow up and grow on and move on from my company. Like, and everyone's different, but I think there's just such a service in allowing people the opportunity and the space to push themselves for the benefit of your company, but it's also for themselves too. And I think that's really how I ended up where I am. Like, I know I have, I was given the opportunity to be a creative director and lead a team and hire people, and things didn't always go perfectly, but it never will.
Yeah.
So
Never will. Well, I really appreciate that thought too. I've thought about that a lot of, let's like take a TV show or something, right? In different seasons, there's different times for different characters, right? And I think it's easy for us, myself included, to like really think like, well, we're the main show, right? And everyone should be our supporting cast and help us succeed. But when you actually think about it, you wouldn't want that the other way around. Like to allow that grace and that freedom to offer that kindness of however long we're running in the same lane, to like receive that as a gift and not expectation. And obviously, any transition, whether it's yourself choosing to make that exit, there's gonna be some pain to that because there's always some cost to a change. But if you can do so, recognizing, well, I'm saying yes to something better, especially a family. I know that really changed my perspective, having our first kid and then having 2 and 3. It's just you recognize the cost so much more. And, learning what all of, our parents and grandparents say, time flies. And so it's like, oh my goodness, they're 5, they're going to kindergarten. Oh my goodness, before you know it, and recognizing that you want every moment to count along the way. So tell me a little bit about your business now. What is that? We've gotten the story to it. What do you offer? What do you do? What does it look like at this point?
Yeah, so I think with all of the experiences that I've had both on the corporate side and the agency side, there's always a disconnect between creative strategy and then the implementation, or the mix of the two, the blend of the two. I think there's so many companies, or both marketing, advertising, you name it, that's selling a cookie cutter solution, and great on them. They're making money doing so, but I don't think it's serving business owners or other individuals who are seeking their guidance and their help, because while they claim to be an expert in an industry or in a particular space, they're not being the expert for the client, and every client is unique and individual. And I think there's more of this brand ecosystem that really needs to be looked at from a larger point of view, and understanding who the client is, where they're going, what their hurdles and struggles are, what makes them unique, what gives them that spark. And so I'm really looking at my clients' needs from a wider lens. Like, marketing is such a black hole. And I think that's why I want, or why I'm positioning my company as a marketing company and not a creative studio or an advertising agency. Like, it should all be there and available to the client. It's just a matter of, okay, like, let's start with how your brand is positioned. Because if your brand isn't positioned correctly or effectively, your marketing activations and advertising promotions are not going to be as effective. You're not going to reach people and pull at your target audience's heartstrings the way you need to in order to make them a move to then buy from you or hire you. So I think having that creative understanding of a brand and how to effectively position them and set them up for success to then do social media, to then have a website, then do SEO. I think that's what's really how I approach it, is really setting the stage and helping people succeed there. And sometimes people come to me and their brand foundation is strong, which is great. Then we move on to the next step, you know? But a lot of times it's, okay, let's talk about like what this foundation looks like for you based on the goals and like what your goals are and where you're going. And most of the time we just need to either tweak something or do a full brand overhaul, you know?
Yeah. And it's interesting just to sit here and listen. And it makes a lot of sense why you would care about that. Even talking about your journey in math, right? Like, I'm just struggling. I'm not in the right place. Or a nurse, like you yourself went on this journey of wanting to be in the right position.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that you're like, I've experienced this, whether you would articulate that way or not. And so I see the value of this. Like, okay, wow, I actually got to college. Once I was done with math, I did fine. I flourished. I had my direction and the things I went after. And sometimes it just takes a little bit, or it takes someone to sit with you and just be like, you don't have to do math for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You're actually much better over here in the creative space. You can hire someone else to do the math, so to speak. And so I don't know, I just got excited hearing that. I was like, oh, it makes sense. It makes sense that you would do this because that's part of the journey you've been on of, okay, how do I get in the right position? And even here in some of your college journey where, it's like a little non-traditional, so to speak, but I think that has, and you've admitted this, it's shaped how you approach it because you've seen so many different things and kind of following that gut of, okay, I don't think this is the position I'm supposed to be in right now. How do I follow this? But then to be able to give your clients the confidence of, hey, I'm here with you.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to figure this out on your own. You don't have to panic or sit here and just cry with your math tutor. You can actually, it's just a little tweak. Let's make a little tweak here and get you headed in the right direction. Because sometimes that 1 or 2 degree shift is all it takes. It doesn't need to be like a 180. I'm sure you have those moments where you're like, you might not be heading in the right direction at all.
Yeah.
But by and large, if they're already coming to you, they're in a place probably where, oh yeah, let's just tweak this here and discover this. So is there a certain type of client that you've found yourself like really enjoying serving? Or like where does what you offer seem to align the best with who you work with?
That's a great question. I've been trying to figure that out
Sure,
myself.
yeah.
I think I've been working primarily with people in the food and beverage industry, with manufacturers, and with a church. And I love working with all of them for different reasons. I've worked with nonprofits too. Like, I've thought about the idea of niching down to a particular industry to be an expert in that field. But I like working with a variety of industries. I think it keeps things interesting. And then I think I also learn things that I can apply to other industries that they may not know and it's my job to be the expert of everything and know more than them in the marketing world, and then how we can flex that and tailor it to them specifically, because they're coming to me to know. They're not coming to me to tell me what they know and how they want things done. I'm looking to guide them. And I right now have a client that's a church, and they really value me as a strategic partner on how to communicate different projects that they are activating within the community. And with that comes the strategy of how to clearly communicate this very complex project that they have going on, because there's so many different facets and avenues to it, which means there are different target audiences to it. And it's just, I think it's so rewarding because I know this work is serving something bigger than myself. And it's not just promoting another product. It's giving back to a larger community, and spreading the kingdom work, And so that's been really fulfilling. And I love that relationship because I feel like a partner with them, and it's collaborative, and I'm meeting different people on their team, and they're connecting me with different people. And it's those relationships that I think are really going to help my business succeed. And maybe, I have another client too. He calls me all the time, and we just bounce ideas off one another. And I like being that sounding board for people. And I think that's a gift that I have, or where I naturally find myself, is being the ears for other people, and then maybe providing a suggestion or an idea. So, yeah. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
I think so. It's the kind of falling back on where you initially talked about your creative roots of just kind of like, you're kind of playing in the background, right? There was a moment where you were thrust to the front and you found yourself public speaking, networking, being the face. But it seems like even hearing your journey at that agency, that you're finding this space of, I'm happy to do that, right? I have this gifts and the skills to be out front and leading it from the front. But there's a sense of, well, let me just move some pieces behind the scenes here. With a little bit of a film background, I think of like the producer, right? Let's get everybody in the right spot here, get them pointed the right way, thinking the right way. Here's a little tweak here. And when you can do that with a group, with a collaboration, to see a team come alive, it was fun to hear you talk about like, our team grew and scaled. Then other people were asking us to do the work for them. And just there was a vigor to the way you were talking about that. And I can sense that you're kind of doing that work in a different way now of like, let's just move these pieces here and let's see. It sounds like it's still coming forth. Like you're still kind of waiting for like maybe the epiphany moment with those groups, but I can sense that you have anticipation and excitement for that, like what's to come with those different clients.
Yeah.
What is, like if you were to pick like what would be like obviously I hear the joy in the work you have now, but I earlier in our conversation, you talked about just like the ability to create, like what are the spaces, like when you think like, okay, if I could just turn my creative juices loose, like what would that look like? Like where would be a fun application for that? Maybe, and just like, let's just blue sky it for a minute of like, okay, if this could just like a dream project or client opportunity came to you and you got to like write all like the details for it, like what would that look like?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and how maybe that could shape the direction of my business. I really miss collaborating with a team on the production side of things. So at the social media agency I worked at, I would help with the ideation and then pass off shot lists to our photographers and videographers. And I really miss having clients that want that creative push rather than just getting another lead. And I get it. People are coming to me because they want to make more money.
Yep.
And I want to help them solve that. But I think what really excites me is being able to help craft a story or a concept and then collaborate with the photographers or the videographers to get the vision right and activate on it. I did the post-production editing, but as I grew that team, I was hiring people that had their own unique artistic flair. And I think there's something so special in finding people for your team who are not only better than you at what you do, because that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to be able to delegate and have confidence and trust in people, but also to hire them for their differences and what makes them unique, because that's going to make the content work that we do more unique, and take our creativity to that next level and play and experiment and be kind of not necessarily goofy, but having that imaginative and playfulness to like stretch your idea so far out of the box that you have to reel it back in to be practical, but there's something healthy that happens when you think way far out and then say, okay, this is fantastic. How do we refine this to make it more approachable, affordable, on brand, you know? But I don't think you get those ideas without having that creative freedom to be playful and wild and collaborative. So maybe to answer your question more direct, I would love to have a team again that I can collaborate with and give the creative space and freedom. Is something we did not have because social media is such a cyclic churn and burn. Like producing 400 pieces of content a month on a 4-person team was insane.
That is insane.
Insane. And it wasn't healthy. And I want to take those lessons and learnings and be able to build that effectively into a budget for a client so that they are getting this quality concept and outcome that's going to make them set apart and stand out from all of the other noise online and through media.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did that answer your question?
No, I love it. And I'm now my mind is running just for my own work. And cause I care about so many of those same things. And it seems to be, I'm curious your thoughts on this. I see this rise of of two different things of this. And I think they're related. More and more people who I kind of read and listen to or just take note of are speaking to what you're speaking to of how do we increase the human touch on something? And it reminds me, of I couldn't give you a date, but it seems like in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a rise of farmers markets, of artisan bread, of the handmade things that we processed over the last 100 years through industrialization.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a greater call for that in the creative space, even the social media space. At the same time that AI, content industrialization, is on the rise. And I think they're related in some ways because AI just gives us the result without going through the hard work and the journey of getting there. And I'm just curious, does that play into kind of how you think about things as well? That it's like, okay, this might not be as quick. We might not be able to get as much content out, right? Because you could plug in a brand voice and all of the things that you would want for your marketing, and one of these language models could crank it out in a day.
Yep.
And you could make people obsolete, and yet it's still humans communicating to humans. So I'm curious how the stuff that has that human touch, that unique artist flair, will almost become of greater value.
Yeah.
Is that, I'm just curious if that resonates, if you have any thoughts on that at all.
Yeah, it does resonate. And, I think AI has its function. Everything AI knows is because it's already pre-existing. So it's nothing really new or unique. I think it's a great way to get that creative brainstorm going. But I don't think it's the end solution or the end result. And perhaps it's a way to serve the clients who do have a really small budget, because that is a challenge. And it's just not feasible to devote a whole bunch of time with a fraction of a budget.
Sure.
But if there's a way that we can use those tools to still serve, certain individuals and groups, then they're not being excluded from the same opportunities. It's not like I'm going to be serving them anything of lesser value. It's just not going to have that creative time, injected into it. And I don't know. That's something I have thought about too, is like, is that ethically okay? And then I also find myself just spending way more time on something because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And it's a strange balance to have. And I think it's going to be trickier as my business scales and I don't have that time to flex and give more to individuals.
Yeah. No, I think something you said in there unlocked a connection for me in the sense of, where is a place to like still give access to people, like using AI to increase equity. Okay, well, yes, I might be able to put X number of zeros behind this if it's me and I hand make it, but I don't want to exclude someone from the possibility of still having really good content. And if AI allows that to be a way forward that can maybe even learn from the way we make stuff.
Yes.
But like you said, it's creating based on what has already existed.
Yeah.
And leaning on the human place for that, the pioneering for the moving forward. I hadn't really thought of it that way, in a sense of, I see the place for AI, I use it for some of the, just like, I need to just brainstorm with someone, and being a solo business owner myself, it's just nice to like, I'm just going to talk to this thing that pretends to act like a human, just to kind of do some research or ideas. So I appreciate that insight a lot.
Yeah. It makes me think about when I was younger, like 5th grade, probably, I wanted to be a fashion designer. I had this book that was of the human figure, and I started with tracing the human figure all the time and then drawing clothes on top of it. And then the more and more you do that, the more natural it becomes. And then you stop tracing, and then you can just do it freehand. And then as you do it freehand, that same figure, you start to add your own touches on it over time. And then that figure starts to evolve to something that didn't previously exist. And now it's its own unique form. So maybe it could be thought of similarly. It's like you can take this template and you can mold it and you can make it your own. And the more you sit with something too, the more new creative ideas you get from having that to look at over and over and over again. I don't know.
Yeah, it helps with the iteration, right? And I for me, I can picture things graphically, but I'm like so slow in like Adobe or like Illustrator, right? Give me Premiere Pro and video, fly away, but Photoshop and the things that like I have the idea, but I'm like, and I can get there eventually, but I know if I sat down with someone who's trained in it like you can do it in 5 minutes. I'm like, here I am, an hour and a half. So it's helpful to like have something that can generate something quicker, right? It's not perfect, but like, hey, just make something that looks ish and I'll roll with it for now. So, but just, I like that of, the iterations of like, hey, I have this as a template, and now rather than like drawing it over and over, I can just like plug it into this model that I'll still be giving the cues and the prompts to generate something new, but it can generate them quicker. And I appreciate that. And
maybe like coming from that social media role too, that's so cyclic, and we were like an assembly line. We were cranking through things like no other. And I think with that, as a creative, you can't spend as much time on each piece. So that forces you to be quicker in your creative thinking and, you know, accepting that it doesn't have to be perfect and just moving on and growing from that. And then the next time you do it, it's going to be a little bit better, or you're going to have a little bit of a new idea to put a twist on that. And, you know, when we go online to gain inspiration and they're like on Pinterest, I spend so much time on Pinterest. It's not like everything is original, but there's like a spin on the original.
Yeah.
And that's what we go to look for, right?
Yep.
Like that's what inspiration is like seeing and connecting with something that someone else made, taking that because you connected with it, and then making it your own. So
it's like, oh, that's a different way. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
thought of it. I agree. Like it's, if we aim for originality, we're going to just tire ourselves out.
yeah.
But if you sort of, I can't think of a better phrase, like just like let it flow, like allowing yourself to like kind of remove the inhibitions, remove the boundaries for a little bit. Like you said, and just like let something become what it's going to become.
Yeah.
Like from the inside out, and then figure, okay, this is amazing. How do we package this now?
Yep.
How do we put this in a place that can serve us, serve others, and be useful in some way? Not that use has to always be the case. I think you would agree that sometimes art is just valuable because it's beautiful, and that matters. We need that. But how do we? Okay, now what do we do with this amazing thing that now exists? Does it just exist for itself, or is there something else that we can give through it, or something like that?
Yeah. Yep.
I love that you were mentioning as a kid, you know, just the things you would draw, the fashions on. Let's go back to what you were talking about earlier, growing up and just like always sketching, always drawing. Were your parents creative? Like, where did that sort of like? It's just kind of like the way you've always kind of been. Like, what was that progression as a kid of creativity and?
Yeah, I was a very creative kid. I don't I don't know that my parents are super creative. I think they're creative in different ways,
Sure,
but not
yeah.
so much the artistic way.
Not the classically understood creative.
Yeah, my dad was a woodworker. He's really good with, you know, he's an engineer, so he's really good with putting things together, and that's not my skill set at all. Like, definitely not mine. But my grandma was crafty. She would, and I know her and my grandpa, whenever he was around, they together would go on all these camping trips, and they would meet all these different people. And my dad shares stories about how she would always have a craft for the kids. And so my grandma and grandpa had gotten into wood carving. My grandma was a seamstress. So going to her house, she also taught me how to play the piano. When we would spend time over there, she just had all the creative things to do. And I don't think it was necessarily because of her that I was creative. I always was. Like, I loved drawing. Like, that's my first love of an art form is just drawing with pencil. And
What kind of stuff did you draw?
a lot of eyes, a lot of faces.
Okay. Like photorealistic sort of drawing? Okay.
Yeah, flowers. I loved drawing flowers, and I would get stuck drawing the same things over and over again, but I got better at them too, you know? And so my grandma taught me how to sew, and that was right around the same time I started having this interest in becoming a fashion designer. So I have binders full of over hundreds of drawings that I did. And they're, you know, a fifth grader drawing, but I would take those drawings, and then she helped me make a couple of them. And so just like going through that system of, I guess I was already like ideating and concepting, and then going through the creative process to bring it to life. And then even so, my friends and my sister, when we were little, we would put on fashion shows together, you know? So there were these different levels of that creative execution that we would do just in play. And yeah, I always liked exploring different mediums. Yeah, as long as I was creating, I was happy.
Where did well, a different question. Like, is that, how did what you learn in that play space of, like, especially with fashion, because fashion just seems to really encapsulate the unique expression of art, right? It's like wearable art, right? Like everyone who I know who's like highly into fashion, they just love that it allows them to express a piece of themselves in whatever they wear. And I can appreciate that. I don't always understand it. And for me, I'm so tall that I kind of just ruled off the ability to like be highly fashionable. It's a whole other thing, I guess. But like, how does that connect to what you do now?
Yeah, I think it's expression. You said it. I think it's how I can bring to life how my clients are expressing their desires and their vision, but making it so it will be effective in that it is aesthetically pleasing. And it's just being that guide to help them understand how that should be expressed. You know, their initial concepts or ideas may not be the right step forward. So it's guiding them and helping them understand how to express themselves. And then, what was your question?
I was just curious. Yeah, I think you're answering it. Like, how does it connect?
Yeah, I think it's helping others express themselves, and then connecting with others through conversations based on how I express myself too. I think fashion particularly is a great conversation starter. Like, it
is,
great networking tool, you know, compliment someone and then it's a conversation. So.
Yeah. Well, even as you were talking, I was like, oh man, you're talking about, okay, how do we create an idea that goes way bigger than practicality? And that's really what a fashion show is, right? It's these designers, they come and they show something, and then a few iterations later, you can buy a wearable version. Or growing up, we would always, I would go to like car shows a ton. There's always concept cars there. Like, this is not a viable business model, but it allows the engineers and the designers to say, hey, here's where we just had blue sky time. And then, but you see the things that they learn in that creative space a few years later in automobiles that hit the road. And I just like, oh, that makes sense, right? Like, how can we create something that's just like so big and out of control? Okay, this is not really everyday viable. So I just made that connection. I was like, oh, it seems obvious now as we're talking about it, but it's just
yeah. And when you think about fashion shows as the example, no outfit is the same, but yet it's all curated and it feels like it's intentional and it's all a part of a collection. And I think a brand can be viewed the same way in how it is executed and portrayed on social and print through a video. You know, like, your brand should be recognizable in all of those different formats without having your logo plastered all over everything. You know, people should be able to hear a phrase and say, oh, that's Serotonic Marketing or Forerunner Story Co. Like, they should feel your brand in these different settings, whether it's just like how something is shot or how it makes them feel. It's like capturing that vibe or that essence of a brand.
Yeah, I think of Seth Godin, you know, he's kind of like the marketing voice of the last 20 years, talks about how if Nike made a hotel, it wouldn't need a swoosh on it. You'd know it. Because they have their brand. And obviously Nike, Apple, Patagonia are sort of like everyone's branding darlings because they've done it so well for so long. But there's a reason that we kind of just, those get used over and over because they've done it so well. Like, you know, when they show up, or you have at least have a feeling of like, man, that feels like Nike. Or that feels like whatever your favorite brand, to use in that example, might be.
And people buy those products because it makes them feel that same way.
Yeah, it's I get to be a part of this universe in a small way.
Yep.
Right? I can, like, I'm wearing Jordans right now, right? It's like, not only do I love basketball, it's like the one creative expression of like fashion that I get that's like, these fit every time. Like, and so it's just like a fun little way of like a little bit of flair that pushes me out of my tendency to be utilitarian. You've offered so much already, but there's a couple other places I just want to go here before we wrap our time. Tell me just some of the places you draw inspiration, whether that's, but I'm thinking more like, what are the stories that have influenced you or resonate with you? Some of just your favorites, whether they directly connect or not. Just like, you love them for whatever reason that might be.
Stories.
Yeah. Some of your favorite stories.
I think a lot of what really resonates with me is just stories from other people. Like, I get inspired from other people. The books I read tend to be more about personal growth and development.
Sure.
So not so much on the story side of things. But I like listening to people's experiences, and especially when people can be honest about it not being perfect. I think there's that room for growth that happens, both for the person speaking, but also for someone else listening. And you absorb that and take it as a different way to approach life or conversations. Or if you ever find yourself in that situation, you kind of know what to do or what not to do, or have a different understanding of it. Yeah.
Is there one that like you find yourself, whether it's a specific person story, maybe just like a theme or a narrative that you find yourself like falling back on in this the last, year and a half of starting and running your own business, that just that like that little bit of oomph, they're like, okay, this is part of the story I'm participating in that kind of helps you keep going?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's all right. Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of this year has been a spiritual journey for me, trying to figure out what my calling is and why do I have a business? Like, is that serving not only myself, but those around me? Like, it's not about the money. It's about the time, and like the time that we have left on this earth, and how am I spending that time? And so a lot of the conversations and maybe the stories that I've had in dialogue with others has been more personal and spiritual.
Like, when we start talking about like spiritual things and the things that matter, that are transcendent, right? It usually gets to the point of, like, for me, I always think about hope, right? Okay, how do I see something and that's what it requires, to see something beyond the current reality and think, okay, that's worth moving towards.
Yeah.
And then I think of, okay, if hope is your goal, faith is then the decision to move towards it.
Yeah.
So what do you hope, right? And this can be like a one, like, what do you hope, whether your business as it currently is or evolves and transforms, but looking out, like, what do you hope that legacy of your work and its impact on those you work with might be? Even if you're not sure like how that might manifest, like, what do you hope that would be?
I hope a couple things. I hope I help those individuals and their businesses and help them achieve their goals through my work. But I think it's even more about those interpersonal conversations that I have with people, and just being that ear for someone, or that sounding board. I think, everyone's always going through something. It's always something, like, and that's life. And I think just being there for people, no matter what setting it is in, and if I can be that for my clients, through the work that I'm doing. That'd be great to give them peace and direction, I suppose.
Yeah. And even, right, when someone, any service, right, that's getting hired out, there's a physical thing that needs to be solved, but usually there's an underlying stress or sometimes like a philosophical question about ourselves. Like, if I don't figure this out, what does this say about me?
Yeah.
And to be able to come alongside and provide a solution, then like you said, that gives that peace of mind of, hey, you're not alone. I'm with you and I can help.
Yeah.
Right, I can help. But then also I sense the piece of you also want to do it in a way, right? Because it's not about the money, but like the time and like to do so in a way that blesses your family and like it's worth that investment, right?
Exactly.
Because like if I could get paid just to hang out with my kids all day, every day, like I'd do that. Like how do I figure that out? Like my wife and I are always joking, like, how do you like, this is we always like look at like, or we've talked about like Chip and Joanna Gaines. So I'm like, how'd they go from like farmer builder to like, they just kind of like hang out with their kids while they do their work. And maybe that's this like sort of new niche portion of the American dream that is somewhat attainable, but also like you need to contextualize for ourselves.
Yeah.
But, sorry about that rabbit trail, but
no,
I
with
think,
you.
but just sense the like, okay, I sense that piece of, I want as much as I have control of it, every piece of this to like matter.
Yeah.
Which is like so audacious. And like, for me, sometimes it's hard to know, right? Like, what is the return on this?
Yeah.
Like, how do you embrace like the mystery of that?
Yeah. How do I embrace that? I don't know. You just kind of have to do it.
Just accept it as a part of life.
Yeah. Yeah. You go through it. And I think, there's pieces to this puzzle of running a business that I never thought I'd be a salesman. It's made me grow in ways that I never thought I would grow. It's pushed me to be a part of a community, and I didn't realize I needed that. I started my career during the pandemic, so everything has been work from home. And Leadership Greater Kalamazoo was that opportunity to really understand how to get connected within the Kalamazoo community. I'm so grateful for that time and the timing of it, and stepping out of my comfort zone and getting comfortable with mingling with different people. And I'm learning and connecting with people that are outside of like my past social spheres. And I think, you grow by surrounding yourself with other people who are maybe either like a little ahead of you in terms of a career or spiritual perspectives or or just being a good-natured human. I think it's healthy to be around a little bit of everyone. And that community and with like diversity too. It's important.
I agree. Well, I feel like we could keep going for a lot longer, but I think that's a good place for us to wrap up for today. And just thanks so much. Thanks for offering your stories, your insights, and so much more than that. Just a gift to get to chat with you and to hear more about it. I feel like in some ways we're on parallel journeys trying to figure out what does it look like to do meaningful work that blesses our community, our families, and is worthwhile. Yeah. And the analogy I always think of, because I heard it in a poem that I love, is about planting sequoias, right? It's planting something that goes beyond my own life. And I appreciate the way that you seem to be thinking about those same things too. Of like, I'd love to be able to see some of the benefit of what I do in my own life, but to do what matters now. So, but as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that you feel like you'd want to share that we haven't covered? Or like if someone wanted to get in touch with you to explore what it would look like to work with you, what would be the best way to go about that?
Yeah. Shoot me a message through my contact form at serotonicmarketing.com.
All right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Mike.
We are all on our own journey, and our stories help us understand where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed. Your story is uniquely valuable because there is no one else like you. And by sharing it, you can help others connect to their own journeys. So wherever you're going, go as only you can go. Lead with story. The music for Lead with Story was created and provided by Joshua Dregge. Lead with Story is a production of Forerunner Story Company. Forerunner Story Company serves individuals, teams, businesses, and brands in helping them discover, craft, and share their story in a meaningful way. For more information, you can visit forerunnerstoryco.com.